The Hungarian presidency of the Council of the European Union. This is a logical idea, since the presidency ended on December 31, so we can take stock. What a surprise, we worked a lot. Many of us work a lot for the success of the Hungarian presidency. According to my understanding, there are several hundred people in the narrow circle of public administration, and this number may exceed 1,000, including related areas. This is a great opportunity to thank them. I thank everyone who worked for the success of the Hungarian presidency. Led by Minister Junos Boka, who did an outstanding job, they deserve to be applauded. Thank you, Junos. And those who worked against the success of the Hungarian presidency, because there were quite a few of them, may the devil take them. And those Hungarians who work against Hungarians on behalf of Brussels, may hell throw them into the deepest pit. To tell the truth, I have fulfilled the invitation, the evaluation that concluded the presidency. Because the Hungarian presidency did not end something, on the contrary, the Hungarian presidency is the beginning of something, the beginning of a new era. Of course, let's not fall into the mistake of the rooster, who believes that if it doesn't crow, then the sun doesn't rise, but let's not underestimate our performance either. These 6 months will go down in history books as the period in which Donald Trump and the European patriots began to transform the Western world. Therefore, it is worth talking about what this new era will be like. It is now generally accepted that we are living in the years of a world system change, the years of the rise of the East of Asia. The world order as we know it, the world order shaped and dominated by the West, or more precisely the Anglo-Saxons, is over. The world's dominant powers and centers of power are now shaping the new economic, political, and cultural frameworks in which we will presumably live for many decades. I see that the big boys are working hard and preparing for the new era with great enthusiasm. For example, they are working hard to create a new geopolitical framework. They want to ensure that things are going well in their immediate neighborhood, that they are not threatened by surprise or danger, and they want to assert their rights over the spheres of influence necessary for their own security. That is why the Russian-Ukrainian war is centered on Ukraine's NATO membership, which the Russians want and will do anything to prevent. That's why Greenland, Canada, and Panama appear on the international politics agenda. That's why the South China Sea and the fate of Taiwan are also in the daily news. The second area of great power preparation, let's say preparation, is the economy. The loudest battle cry is coming from new technologies and innovative industries. In China, after or alongside mass production, they are now shifting to innovative high-tech industries with high added value. Electromobility, space exploration, telecommunications, artificial intelligence. And this is the essence of Donald Trump's new American economic policy. Western liberals have invented and built woke capitalism in recent decades. Western liberal politicians have replaced the aspects of competitiveness and performance with the propaganda of diversity. They have put the fact that they are on the right side of history, that they are the ones who are working for the right order of the world, ahead of competition and profit. True, they had eliminated economic growth. They have skyrocketed inflation. Their factories are closing down one after another, and wages have dropped alarmingly, but none of this matters. They may even have their entire economic system torn apart. The important thing is that they are good people who stand above the whole world with their moral standards. A telling example of this is the green transition and the green economic plan, which is currently destroying the European coast. This is woke capitalism. The good news is that America has woken up. They have realized that if this continues, the whole world, that China, will surely march past them, and at most it will be a receiving market for super-modern products manufactured elsewhere. If this continues, they will no longer write the future. At best they can read it. And then as time goes on, they will even lose the ability to understand what is happening around them and with them. That's why the United States decided to come off the drug. This is what Donald Trump's victory is about. And this is what the new American economic policy that will begin in 6.5 hours is about. The third area of the great competition is the competition in models of state organization. Everywhere they are looking for the most favorable, most productive forms of social organization. Exciting and instructive debates are taking place on this from Washington, China, India, and Russia, to Iran, Israel, and Turkey. What everyone who has eyes to see can see is that the Western liberal model of state organization, which they call liberal democracy, has failed. It collapsed under its own weight, or rather the weight of its own mistakes, and the place of its downfall was its own homeland, the United States, an over-bureaucratized state system, an over-regulated economy, a state incapable of movement and action, a state that ultimately works against its citizens, not for them. Well, that's what the Americans rebelled against. The American rebellion opens up the space, provides the opportunity, legitimizes the competition between modes of state organization. Here we have the battle of the American versus Brussels systems right in front of us from tomorrow. Finally, the fourth area of the competition is the area of policy serving identity, cohesiveness, cohesion, or in Hungarian, self-identity. Only a center of power can be successful where the basis of state life is a common identity. History, language, religion are all things that liberal democracy has written off, perhaps even looked down upon, and considered obsolete. Ladies and gentlemen, how does this relate to the Hungarian presidency? What does this have to do with our work? My friends, for half a year we've seen firsthand what is going on in Brussels. We got to the core. We could examine it with a microscope. We got to the CET stomach, and what we found there wasn't pretty. I saw that the only geopolitical public foundation where they do not deal at all with these future-defining issues is Brussels. Neither with the changes in world politics nor with their consequences for us. The European Union is not only lagging behind in the competition, see expensive study, but it has not even begun to prepare for the competition. You are sitting comfortably in the dressing room, as if you are unaware that a decisive match is about to begin outside. If this continues, the Union will be eliminated from the competition, its economy will collapse, and its safe living conditions will disappear. Therefore, the European Union should come to its senses, but instead it is still in the process of awakening. It doesn't want peace, it forces war. It doesn't want border protection, it wants migrants. It doesn't protect families, it protects gender. He doesn't want affordable energy, he wants green politics. Our conscience is clear. We said it, we warned, we took on serious arguments. The Hungarian presidency said that war weakens Europe. We will suffer defeat. More precisely, we have already suffered defeat. This is not a football match. It is not a question of who is on whose side, who is cheering for whom. This is not a game, this is war, and the stakes are on us. If a war is fought on the European continent, we can only lose. All of us, not just Ukraine, which has already gone to war, but all European economies. Prices are skyrocketing. The Ukrainian front is eating up our money. Sanctions are eating away at our businesses, and energy prices are killing European companies that were competitive before the war. The Hungarian presidency raised the flag of peace, opened the door to a ceasefire of peace talks, started dialogue with the warring parties, and put pressure on European leaders to restart diplomacy and communication. Only in a war where the parties aim to destroy the other, there is no need for communication. But do we really believe that our soldiers will march under the flag of the European Union on Red Square in Moscow? If we do not believe this, then the diplomatic channels of negotiation must be kept open. We did this even though we could only do it on a national basis because of the majority of member states that oppose peace. But we persevered, and today we proudly hand over the peace taffeta to the new American government. Let's face it, this is more fitting for them, or more precisely, proportional to their scale. Good intentions, courage, diplomatic skill, Christian sense of duty are fine, but in the end, peace requires strength. In accordance with our own geopolitical interests, we have resolved the accession of Romania and Bulgaria to the border-free European area, launched association negotiations with Albania, and brought all Balkan countries closer to the European Union. We have adopted a common plan for simpler economic regulation, strengthening agriculture, and reducing energy prices. We have even achieved success in identity-strengthening policies. With Meloni at the forefront, we launched a rebellion against Brussels' migration policy. We held a demographic conference perhaps for the first time in the history of the European Union. We had documents recognizing the values of Jewish life adopted amidst a resurgent wave of anti-Semitism in Western Europe. And we founded the European Party of Patriots, which provides a strong representation of the national sovereignist idea in Brussels. Ladies and gentlemen, this has happened. This has been achieved in Europe. This is no small amount of progress. Indeed, it is progress not seen for years. The only question is where Hungary is in this. Like the big players, we Hungarians are working to be winners in the new world order that is now taking shape and which promises to be lasting. We modernized the basic structure of our economy in the early 2010s, shifted the focus of the tax system from labor to consumption, low taxes on labor, 1 million new jobs, full employment, an environment conducive to investments and businesses, continuous wage growth, except for 1 year, 2013, the year of war sanctions. We placed families at the center of the economy and society. Then we integrated universities into the economic system. We put research and innovation on a new foundation. And finally, we began building the most advanced new industries in Hungary. The world's most modern factories in the field of electromobility, building and launching our own satellite system, joining the most modern military research, launching cutting-edge laser industry and healthcare research, since we even have a Nobel Prize winner in this field. This work never ends. There can never be enough new technologies. Instead of liberal democracy, we wrote a new constitution in 2010 that protects a new national family and community, builds on Christian traditions based on sovereignism, and introduced a method of state organization. As they say about us in America, we were Trump before Trump. We are doing well in the areas of economy, state organization, and self-identity. We are at the forefront of the world, not followers as we have been for centuries, but pioneers, modelers, brave experimenters. That is why we are icons for Western conservatives, and why Western liberals hate us from the bottom of their hearts. And it is precisely our struggles over the past 15 years that now give Hungary the opportunity for a new economic policy. We have just launched this new economic policy. Its first 21-point action plan is now becoming a reality in the Hungarian economy. Its political basis and backing are provided by the latest national consultation on economic neutrality. 1,350,000 people participated in the consultation, and 95% of them supported the new economic policy being based on neutrality, economic neutrality. Here I must say a few words about economic neutrality in the European Union context. Liberals see the doctrine of economic neutrality as a political tactic that is more of a communication or a serious one, but does not touch on the essence, as some idea that does not penetrate to the deeper context of things. Whereas economic neutrality is the idea and political trend that defines Hungary's place and path in the international space, a place and path that is different, even contrary to the expectations of Brussels, we can say defines Hungary's policy of separate travel. The point is, ladies and gentlemen, that the European Union has been isolated by its current leaders. That they call us isolated, do not fool us. We are facing an old communist trick. They always accuse their opponent of doing what they are doing. The truth is that there is no other continent that has been so isolated from the all-important player in the New World Order. Europe has isolated itself from the new American leadership. European liberals painted Donald Trump as a demon, and it is painful not only for us Europeans, but also for the new American administration. The EU isolated itself from China, calling one of the world's economic superpowers a systemic rival and launching a tariff war against it. The EU also isolated itself from Russia. European leaders claim the Russian-Ukrainian war as their own, and they have eliminated the combination of cheap Russian energy and advanced European technology and economic structure without replacing it with anything. And the Union has isolated itself from the continent of the future, Africa. Instead of common sense, they have imposed completely alien LGBTQ and gender policies as a condition for cooperation, and have thus made a system of relationships based on trust impossible. Meanwhile, during the Hungarian presidency, we Hungarians have continuously built future cooperation with the Republican Front, which has meanwhile won a landslide victory. We have maintained the communication channel and the cooperation with Russia that guarantees reasonable energy security. Almost half of Chinese high-tech investments in Europe come to Hungary, and Hungarian water industry and agricultural expertise is welcomed everywhere in Africa. If this continues, the Union will be the absolute loser of the New World Order. We thank you, but we do not ask for this losership. We want friends, cooperation, economic relations, business profits and advantages in international politics. And let us pause here, dear Brussels comrades, because the jaw that we have seen so far has also fallen. It is difficult to find a political class in the world as hypocritical as the Brussels bureaucrats. While they are demanding a divestment from Russian energy sources, more Russian liquefied natural gas has arrived in Western Europe than ever before. Meanwhile, large EU companies have also been purchasing their Russian crude oil via some Asian detours. A Brussels official who gave a 45-minute presentation on the systemic avoidance of sanctions sums up his point by saying that sanctions are working. And when I look at the new sanctions package, I see that their imagination has now reached the point where they want to add football teams to this new list. Ladies and gentlemen, we Hungarians have a strategy worked out with Brussels for the coming world era. The results of this are obvious. Even our opponents only discuss these with embarrassed shame. Everyone has a job. Here, families pay the lowest utility bills in all of Europe. We brought down inflation to such an extent that we were able to increase pensions in real terms last year, and we were able to give pensioners 150 billion forints more than the increase in line with inflation. Wages started to rise. We doubled the family tax credit. We will introduce a workers' loan alongside the student loan. The fiscal deficit will decrease and the national debt will not increase. No one disputes that in 2025 the growth of the Hungarian economy will be at least twice that of the European Union. State investments worth 450 billion forints are being launched. Hungarian small and medium-sized enterprises will receive 1,400 billion forints in 2025. The savings of Hungarian families are at least 2 times the European Union average. Ladies and gentlemen, in light of this, the only question is, if Brussels is this way and we are that way. If they are this way and we are that way, what will the relationship between Brussels and Hungary be like in the coming years? Our starting point is that the focus of the Hungarian presidency was not the EU presidency, but the Hungarian people. In the same way, we will shake the Brussels-Budapest relationship in the interests of the Hungarian people. What will happen cannot be derived from the interests of the European Union, but from Hungary's grand strategy. The starting question is this: are we interested in whether Europe, the European Union, is sick or healthy? We could say that if the Union is sick, then let it be sick, and Hungary be healthy. After all, we don't want to shape Europe, we just want to live our own lives the way we want, and we're only interested in making sure that no one else can thwart that. Cool. Sounds good, but unfortunately it's not that simple. Unfortunately, this approach will no longer be sustainable in 2025. First of all, because the content and quality of EU economic rules have an impact on the success of Hungarian economic actors. The effects of bad Brussels economic policy can be mitigated in Budapest, but cannot be completely eliminated. Moreover, there are also exclusive EU competences, such as trade and immigration policy, and these are important, even fundamental issues. So for Hungary, it is not indifferent whether the EU is sick or healthy. From the point of view of our own Hungarian successes, this is a boundary condition. And the Union is sick. The sick man of Europe today is the European Union. The symptoms are obvious, well-known, and subject to frequent and detailed analysis. Without going into details, it is enough to say that the Union is unable to guarantee the peace and security of Europe and its immediate neighborhood. Just think of the Russian-Ukrainian war. The Union is also unable to guarantee the prosperity of Europe. Just think of the Draghi report. The EU is not even able to stop illegal migration. The EU does not give European agriculture any perspective, and in fact, Ukraine's membership in the EU would ruin European farmers. The Hungarian presidency dealt with these issues openly, in clear, understandable language, and in a straightforward political style. However, there will be little debate, discussion, or deliberation in the future. It is a waste of words and time, because politics cannot be built on the understanding of the bureaucrats in Brussels. We knew this, and the presidency experiences confirmed it. They are unconvincing. Of course, the crisis situation of the Union did not develop overnight. We have been struggling with these problems for decades. This also raises the question of the responsibility of institutions and individuals. We are still talking about politics, but this is worth addressing in another presentation. What is important here and now is that the Union is piling up failure after failure, and in the meantime, the EU institutions are constantly getting stronger and are being reinforced through the acquisition of new powers. Let's look at the list. In 2000, we decided that by 2010, the European Union would be the most competitive knowledge-based economy in the world. This was the Lisbon strategy. We can see where we are. Then came the Europe 2020 strategy with specific development goals. It remained on paper. Then came the Green Transition Plan. It failed after 5 years. And lo and behold, instead of introspection, Brussels responded to the failure with more centralized policies and the withdrawal of member state powers. In parallel, obviously in the interest of the previous goal, Brussels is increasingly openly abusing its power, tying the member states in a knot with economic and financial constraints. There is pure retaliation and punishment here. In the case of Hungary, a conditionality procedure, but there are also complicated and more sophisticated tools and methods. I see it. With this hat behind me, I can boldly say that in Brussels, they do not think at all that the European Union is sick. They think it works exactly as it should. I have to say that the goal of European integration today is integration itself. The right question is, or should be, whether common policies make member states more successful together than they would be separately or not. But for Brussels, the question is more how common policies contribute to the creation of a supranational bureaucracy. Now the question is how we Hungarians, seeing this, should react to this situation. How to heal the Union, which aimed at federalization and the elimination of member state sovereignty. In short, I can answer this question for you by saying that change is needed, and this change can be achieved through political means, from the outside, and through conflicts with Brussels. Of course, it is also worth using tools within the EU. For example, agreements need to be made from time to time, but in reality, we Hungary are the opposition to the Brussels system. Consequently, we are also the opposition to the political elite that has grown up with the Brussels system. Let's be honest. Brussels is under occupation by an oligarchy organized by the left liberal and transatlantic elite. It is a system of power. This is a system of power that is not European, but global. It is not a democracy, but an oligarchy, and it is not based on the sovereignty of nation-states, but federal. Even the blind can see that the progressive liberal United Front, staffed with the money of Soros Georgi, stands opposite us. They attack us because we are sovereignists, even patriots. They attack us because we demand that the rule of law apply to Brussels as well. They attack us because we demand that the fight against corruption apply to Brussels as well. Here is the embarrassing case of Commissioner Reinders. For years he has been slandering Hungary, accusing it of violating the rule of law and corruption. Now when his mandate has ended, he is already under criminal proceedings for corruption and abuse of power. And we are being educated by those who do not even notice the log in their own eye. Sirs, gentlemen, we know their fighting style. They use every means, if necessary, promising jobs, scholarships, recognition, limelight, power, and money. If necessary, they threaten with money, fines, financial sanctions, and deprivation of civil rights. Let us have no illusions. There will always be those among us who are scared and think there is a lesser evil. If we do not end this spiral of extortion now, it will only get worse. Then, of course, come the current favorites, who stand in their ranks and place them on the necks of the member states. Let's keep our watchful eye on Warsaw. The Polish conservative government was actually replaced by the Brussels bureaucrats with today's liberal Polish government. We can see that their tools are not ineffective and not without danger. In contrast, our political power is fed by a different source. We do not expect Brussels to admit us into the halls of power. Our strength does not come from Brussels or from the approval of the left liberal elite. We ask and receive authority from European citizens. The European elections brought a new right-wing majority within realistic reach, capable of overthrowing the Brussels elite. And the Hungarian presidency held a demonstration of strength for the first time in the European Parliament debate. This is the new force. The Hungarian presidency has proven the necessity and possibility of change. The constellation under which we stand now is much more favorable than it was in 2024. Not only have we become stronger, in the meantime the flagship of Western liberal politics has also sunk. The Western world has gained a patriotic, peace-loving, anti-migration, pro-family president in Washington. Only a few more hours and even the sun will shine differently over Brussels. A new president in America, a large patriotic faction in Brussels, great enthusiasm, experienced patriots who love their country. So the big attack can begin. I hereby launch the second phase of the occupation of Brussels, the flanking operation.